The story begins with Makoto Mizumi, who was unexpectedly summoned into a bar space by the Japanese god Tsukuyomi, who told Makoto that his own parents migrated to Earth from another world by making a contract with the goddess of their world, in which it was stated that whenever the goddess needed assistance, they would give their most precious thing to her. And now that goddess is in need of a hero, so Makoto had to go to another world, but if he rejects it, one of his sisters will have to go there. Hearing this, Makoto quickly agrees, and the goddess didn't waste any time in summoning him to her world, but as she saw Makoto, she was disgusted by his appearance. So that degenerate goddess gave Makoto the ability to understand all languages other than human language, and then she threw him away at the edge of the world, but before he falls to his death, Tsukuyomi saved him and gave Makoto an insight of his own powers. Apparently Earth is like a shackle that was holding his powers, but in this world that won't happen, so even falling from this height Makoto won't die. But it won't make him immortal, so he can't still die if he's not careful in this world while facing his foes. Laying out info and a warning, Tsukuyomi then leaves, leaving Makoto all alone at the edge of the world. He traveled for 3 days and nights, but there wasn't a single trace of a living thing. Then at night Makoto heard a scream and rushes in. He saw that an orc girl was gonna die by that Cerberus, so in single shot Makoto defeated it, and even he was surprised by his overpower. And for that orc, her name's Emma, and she was on her way to offer herself as a sacrifice to the great dragon Shin. The village she lives in has been surrounded by fog for quite some time. As a result, the crops have stopped growing, so giving a sacrifice lifts the fog every now and then. But to show her gratitude for saving her, Emma first led Makoto to her village, where he stuffed some food, but he got a bit interested to see Emma doing magic, so he wanted to learn it as well. So Emma showed him the basic way of magic, and Makoto nailed it in his first attempt, and that fireball just made a huge blast. So Emma tested out his level, thinking he might be at least level 300. But he was just a rusty level 1. Even so, the next day Makoto left to fight the dragon that was threatening the orc village with whatever he had learned. Then Makoto practiced for the last time the fire spell he had learned and destroyed a faraway gate with many ogres, so they were the ones using Shin's name to kill the orc. But the gate Makoto just wasted now was Shin's, so the dragon appeared right there. Even so, Makoto overpowered Shin in a head-to-head fight. So Shin placed Makoto in a cube and began seeing his memories from his life on Earth when he was proposed by a girl. Shin realized by seeing other parts of his memories that Makoto is actually from another world. There was some embarrassing stuff as well, so Makoto snapped out of that dream, and Shin was so captivated by Makoto that she agreed to become his servant and sign a master's servant pact. Well, there was no harm or loss, and so Makoto accepted her as a servant. But that pact turned Shin into a sexy lady, so if Makoto power had an impact on her appearance, Shin took Makoto to a demi-world that only she can control it, and surprisingly, that pitch-dark world had turned into a fertile land, and not only that, but that demi-plane had the same fruits as the Earth. Analyzing the area with his power, Makoto saw that this entire place is like a world of its own, and luckily that crappy goddess won't mess with him in this place. After that they returned back through that mist and saw that Emma followed his trail to take him back before fighting with Dragon. Seeing that she didn't recognize Shin in human form, but when she saw her scales, she knew it was the real Shin, and she passed out of fear. After that the village celebrated being free of those threats, and Shin tells the orc leader everything that happened. Seeing their life in this wasteland, Shin convinced whole village overnight to move into her own world, demi-plane, but managing the town with people around would prove to be a problem. But Shin had it covered, as she had made a replica from her fragment of her own self. Then she transported everyone to demi-plane in an instant, and the orcs were overjoyed to be able to live in a fertile land. While Makoto was learning about his own powers after discovering that his strongest affinity in elemental magic is for water magic. But Shin was becoming a headache, as she was falling for such historical drama that she was snatching Makoto's memory. But Makoto was tired of it, and as Shin tried to take it forcefully, she took out a wrong memory. It was embarrassing one, and Makoto was down imagining how many of his embarrassing memories she had seen. Seeing him down, Shin left the thing for today and left, but she left the memories out there. Seeing that Makoto recalls that his parents are from this world and made a goal to find out about them and follow in their footsteps, so he took off to walk around and saw two orcs struggling to cut down a tree. So naturally Makoto landed a hand to them, but that orc got a cut on his hand, so Makoto used his area ability known as Kai to heal his wound. It could heal others, so Makoto tried healing himself by cutting his hand a bit, but that power does not work on himself. But when Shin appears with a dwarf, whatever knocked him out was quite hungry. And because Makoto had a cut on his head, his blood lured that predator directly to him. Makoto looked at Shin with a helping gesture, but she stepped backwards, making an excuse that she was taking care of an injured. So Makoto came forward to take that spider out. Makoto dealt quite a bit of damage to the Spidey, but it just kept regenerating itself. So Makoto used that same element arrow against that thing, but that weirdo started laughing at Makoto, because it started absorbing the magic itself to heal its wounds. Then after returning to full power, the spider cornered Makoto and buried its fang at him, but something changed him as he openly fired an impossible amount of multiple spells. Seeing this, Shin noticed that Makoto was just holding back, worrying that he might hurt someone in the demi-plane, but then Makoto used his full power to obliterate the spider. But using that much mana wore him out, and even after that spider was alright. In fact, she had fallen for Makoto, but she was being a pervert, so Shin knocked her back to her senses, and moving on, Shin tells her about the contracts that made her into a human with Makoto, and Spider wanted to be with him as well. So Shin just made a pact between Makoto and Spider without his consent, but as Makoto woke up, he was confused seeing a gorgeous lady around. So she explains what happened after he passed out and also about the pact he signed with that spider without his consent. Anyways, the dwarf they saved from the black spider is known as an elder dwarf, and elder is the highest title that only a master smith can have. He showed his gratitude for driving away the curse from the spider and helping her to obtain her human form. They made that story to cover up that black spider was hungry. Then the dwarf asked Makoto for him and his kind to move in this town. Makoto was about to agree, but Shin cuts him to gain profit as she offers a deal that they must provide them with highest rank weapon, but it would take a bit of an effort to convince all of the dwarf, but Shin gave him her scales, and with this material no dwarf would disagree. Then after a while in the real world, Makoto finally found a human village, but Shin called him immediately because they wanted to have a name. As a master, it's his job to name his servants. So Makoto came up with Tomo for Shin and Mio for Spider after that. The elder dwarf had all come to greet Makoto, as well as many of the lizardmen who are Shin's followers, and now they are here to serve Makoto, and also Mio brought many elks, her own followers, and with them this place was packed with many of the species except human, and Makoto wanted to have some human contact. So he returned to the village and found a girl near the area, but she ran away from him. Makoto thought it was because of his appearance, but not any longer, as the entire village was on tow against Makoto. He tries to talk, but they started attacking him there. He recalls that degenerate goddess gave him ability to know every language other than human. Makoto was really sulking at home, but Shin tells the reason is his mana, that for anyone it appears as if a various demon king appeared at the same time. So to suppress it, Makoto only managed to suppress only to one less demon king. Then Makoto was on fire to learn the human language and enter the human village, but the fire died quickly. Then came the elder dwarf named Rugi. He made a mana depleting ring that would kill a normal man, but Makoto's mana was so great that the ring broke off and Rugi had to make another one. Now with that, Makoto was all set to enter the town with Mio and Tomo. They disguised as merchants to enter the town, but everyone around there were just so beautiful that Makoto understood why that goddess got prickly over his look. Then they saw the guild of Zetsuya, so they first went there to register as an adventurer, but both Mio and Tomo surpassed everyone there with the level of 1320 for Tomo and 1500 for Mio. Tomo can't take in the fact that Mio is more powerful. Then setting that aside, Tomo gets information on the other highest ranking adventurer, Sophia the Dragon Slayer. Well, she slayed the dragon that Tomo knew and had the highest ranking with level 920. So the three of them chose an inn to stay for a while, but Makoto left Tomo in charge of their good while he went to buy some food because they had been followed for a while now. But Makoto saw a hungry girl on the street and brought her back to his room. Her name is Rainan and she stayed with her sister Toa, but now she's been missing for a month. And the house they were renting, the owner kicked her out. There Tomo comes in with a hostage she caught, but Makoto started lecturing her for killing those thugs carelessly. But Rainan got there to show the drawing of her sister, and seeing this Makoto went cold that he requested Mio and Tomo to find her as soon as possible. Because she resembles the girl who proposed to him on Earth, he didn't go himself because who knows what he might do in anger. Then Mio and Tomo found her rather quickly in a building and wanted to get away, but the adventurer from the guild known as Ace the strongest in the town stopped them. Well, they were using these kidnapped folk as Jenny pigs for experiment to get ready to fight a mysterious guy who appeared earlier who was similar to a demon lord. They offered Tomo and Mio to join them instead of serving a weakling like Makoto, but that insult had pissed them off, but he had a powerful barrier magic. But nonetheless their power isn't even worth worrying, as Tomo and Mio seriously laid waste to everyone around, destroying even their building and freeing others that were held captive. But on the other hand, Makoto was keeping the company to Rainan, but then she went away for a while. So Makoto used his Kai to see her movement and saw that Rainan was forced by many of the scumbag to trick Makoto in order to save her sister. which got on his nerves because they were using such a young child and Makoto was really gentle with her, so she felt really guilty for tricking him. But not for long because Mio and Tomo had already saved her sister, but somehow this saving task turned into a competition as they showed off their strength to prove who was the strongest. After not getting any results, they at least stopped and Linon and Toa were reunited. They took shelter under Makoto, but he was calmly pissed that Mio and Tomo had changed the looks of the entire town. So he asked Mio to create a spider skill and with it he shoot both of them far away for their punishment. So let's call it a day for now, but let's meet again in the next video, and for that, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates.